Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brightworks and another match of Beyond All Reason between some top tier pros going head to head in a 1 versus 1 where today spawning is the Red Commander. It's a commander that's going to be playing as an Armada tier commander, an Armada type of commander. It's going to be none other than Club clocking in at 46 open skill and spawning on the southwestern side here of Canis River. Canis River, a famous 1v1 map. It's pretty much always in the map pool for 1v1s. Like, whenever there's a tournament, whenever there's a pro league, whenever there's anything, Canis River seems to make it in. And I think that's for good reason. There's a lot of cool strategies and a lot of reasons why it's definitely one of those top tier matches for 1v1 gameplay. And, ooh, it looks like Club going to be going for a little bit of a vehicle start. Fairly standard for Armada commanders to go into bots, so I'm curious to see what we're going to go for here. Basically, the one unit I can imagine that Club might be interested in here is the Janus tank. This is a bit of a longer replay, though, and usually if you go for a Janus rush, it's kind of a cheesy strategy. You're typically ending to pump out enough of those to end the game basically immediately. Very curious to see if that means that Club is going for something a little bit different, or if we've got, oh, something interesting planned. A bunch of blitzes queued up. Okay, very cool. Spawning on the other side of the map, spawning is a blue Cortex commander. It's going to be none other than Lord Vador, coming in at 49 open skill. Going to be showing us some of that good old-fashioned Cortex action, some of that good old-fashioned incisor play. I'm certain that we're going to see a whole bunch of them. They've been super, super popular in the professional scene for a good long while, and for a good reason. They're very cheap, they're very high damage, they're very high health, relative to their cost, of course, and that does mean that they're an excellent skirmishing unit. Right up until the mid-game, they really do perform quite phenomenally. Even against medium tanks, they can do quite nicely, mainly because, of course, they're fast enough to dodge a large portion of the attacks from those medium tanks. Curious to see how we're going to utilize those on the field here today. The other interesting thing about Canis River, let's talk about the map for a second, has two little choke point areas, two little crossings between, well, the infamous Canis River, where you can see that units can cross, but there's actually some secret crossings over here in the water as well. They're not as easily visible, but there is little pathways right here where you can actually cross units. So there's, technically speaking, 4 crossings here on Canis River. It's just that a couple of them aren't as easily noticeable as others. Looks like one of these rovers will make it into the backline. Going to target down the metal extractor here, and boom, it goes. Well, no boom, actually, because it wasn't fully constructed. And that does mean that the metal that was put into it is lost forever right there. Nice little snipe from the Red Commander. It's not game-breaking damage, game-ending damage, but it is certainly a nice way to start off this match right here. The rover, very much a unit that benefits a lot from being in retreat. On the pure aggression, the Rascal wins every single time. When retreating very carefully on the micro, the Rascal technically has some benefit. Well, it has benefits all around, but the rover can oftentimes if you're out microing the rover, there's technically a ceiling for it. All that is to say, the rover goes down. And we're both expanding very greedily. So this is a very standard start right here for both of these commanders. We're just going for the default, setting up an LLT over here. You can see both of these commanders going for functionally the same exact build. Expanding with the constructor over here to get these 2 metal extractors. Grabbing the LLT over here to lock down this section. It only takes 1 LLT to really nicely secure this, at least up until basically medium tanks. I mean, a couple of incisor can beat this too, but it really does become pretty costly because ideally you want to sneak around the side right here, but that means the LLT isn't going to go down. One of those situations where once you hit that snowball threshold, this LLT becomes functionally useless, but until you hit that threshold, this LLT holds this high ground with very, very intense vigor. A couple of counter-attacking units now headed across the field right here into Club, trying to set up a little bit of an outpost here. You can see both of these commanders very, very well aligned in pace. There's that Blitz struggling so hard against these Rascals, well, when they're moving anyways. Yeah, the Blitz is it's in a bit of a sorry state right now. I unfortunately have to admit, it's kind of in a rough way with its plasma projectiles being very, very inaccurate and having a really hard time actually ever managing to connect with much of anything, really, against any of these faster-paced units. By the way, a little bit of a run-by over here. A couple of those blitzes trying to find some damage, but ultimately not going to find much. Constructor still lives. Commander still lives. Metal Extractor still lives. The Blue Commander, Vador, doing a great job of, yeah, making the most out of that and just eating up the metal. Enjoying the light snack that is 2 of those blitz tanks that went across the map right here and fed themselves to the blue war machine. We do have a little bit of a construction turret coming up from the 3 constructors in the backline here. I think peeling one of these off to build a little bit of eco wouldn't be the worst idea, whether it's solar panels or wind turbines. Wind turbines, not terrible on this map, but the max wind speed of 14 isn't really anything to brag about either. It looks like we're going to instead go for a little bit of a diversity of economy. Probably a wise strategy here for the Blue Commander, pivot into some of that stable economy. A couple of those T1 solar collectors, very inefficient, but very steady. And then, of course, going for some wind turbines here to stimulate the rest of that economy. The red commander kind of forced into wind turbines, though. As an Armada commander, you're really incentivized to go for those wind turbines. On maps with low wind speed, Armada commanders are punished heavily for just the sheer fact that their economy hinges around those wind turbines being ever so slightly cheaper, but it is an advantage that you can eke out pretty early on into the game, building a metal extractor advantage, and then eventually you go ahead and build those wind turbines into energy converters, and those can give you a huge advantage later on. Big old clash over here, though. 4 incisors are making their way across. A couple of blitzes going to engage. Ooh. It's a matter of surrounding. If the blitzes can get a good enough engagement, this really can turn in their favor. But for the time being, this has been phenomenal for the blue commander. Yep, there we go. What is that? 4 blitzes for the cost of 1 incisor. Ooh. Rough trade right there for the red commander. At the very least, this wreckage is on their side of the map. It's going to be in the hands of Indie Club, so eventually we are going to be able to clean all that up. But yeah, suffice it to say that those tanks took an excellent fight, going to be retreating home, coming home as heroes to be repaired by the commander, and eventually rejoin the main force once more. I love this. So this drawing right here is Lord Vader predicting exactly what Indie Club is doing. Drawing on the map exactly the pathway that the red commander is taking. And obviously, as we can all tell, Indie Club paying very good attention. It's one of those things about the pro level matchups is that they're so used to playing against each other at a high level here that these builds start to become counter builds and then counter builds, and you start to see that back and forth right between different matchups. Really cool to see, but it also means that there's obvious holes, right? If you know what your opponent is going to do, you might try and sneak around what they're doing, or might try and play around what they're doing. Big old attack coming in on the northern side. Looks like incisors are sent up north here to try and help. There is a constructor making its way up north here as well, but I will say slightly less of an expense on the defense value. Actually, well, 50% less spent on the defense value. In all reality, it's only about 200 or so metal, 230 or so metal spent on extra defenses here. But that's units that aren't on the map, aren't on the field. And you can see that army value here slightly in favor now of the blue commander. That's what AV and DV stand for, by the way. I did have a comment asking about that. That's army value, which is the total amount of metal spent on units on the field, and then defense value, which is the amount of metal put into static defenses, LLTs, HLTs, MLTs, all those LTs. Kind of a nothing burger of an engagement. We killed the constructor, so that's quite nice. Traded a blitz for it, though. Now the blitzers are just kind of on the warpath, looking for any kind of damage they can do. They're going to spread out and try and hit this metal extractor segment over on this side. The LLT more than happy to blast those down. The dual LLT here actually going to, yeah, kill more of those blitzes than I think that, oh no, even the metal extractors won't go down. Yikes. Indie Club throwing away a couple hundred metal right there to the blue commander. I'm not sure that was worth it at all. At the very least, maybe going to be able to snag some of these mexes on the high ground here. For what it's worth right now, though, that was not an efficient trade. And now, yeah, this another blitz running right into the LLTs. Good scouting information. Maybe the silver lining to take away from this here is this red blitz makes it forward, manages to kill one of those mexes, and will head on, well, further forward into the back line now. Very cheeky. Air transition has been made right now by the blue commander. Goes into a couple of those shuriken. Those are obviously one of Cortex's most powerful tools. Janus tanks, though, out on the field. It looks like we have pivoted into medium tanks. We also have a mine layer, interestingly enough, the Groundhog. Stealthy mine layer, minesweeper. Able to detect landmines in a short radius and disable them, as well as lay mines, obviously. Plant their own in very strategic locations. Looks like a couple of those mines did detonate, and with the mines now out on the field, it's going to be a little bit annoying to try and push around with incisor. It only takes light mines in order to really mess up incisors. Medium mines will flat out kill incisors. I believe it's 2 medium mines or 3 light mines in order to kill incisors, so it's very, very cheap to blow up those light tanks with just a couple of those landmines. Ooh, it looks like these tanks were caught a little bit out in the open, though. That's what I'm saying. Those incisor, if they catch you in the open and they catch you in a good surround, they can do tons and tons of damage. Janus tank trying its very best here as well. It needs a connection with all these units while they're clumped up, and it's not going to get it. Medium tanks continuing to try their very best, but there's so many incisor. There we go. Janus tank does fire away, and for what it lacks in fire rate, it definitely has in fire accuracy. Those twin missiles do have little guidance systems strapped inside their warheads, so they're very good at geothermal up and running, by the way. They're very, very good at locking onto targets and taking out things that move pretty quickly. We never see this geothermal, at least in all of the Beyond a Reason Fight Night. We never saw these geothermals taken, so I'm so excited to see it because it's such a huge boost to the energy economy. 300 energy per second coming into a T1 energy economy is gigantic. And my goodness, we're already going into T2. Ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we're headed into a early late game. We've got a 9-minute and 50-ish second constructor. What will the official time be? 9:52 on the T2 constructor. As it rolls out of the laboratory here, we're also going to build a console. I wonder what the console is going to be used for. There's a couple of powerful units this can build out on the field. Gunslingers, namely one of them. Platypus, also another excellent opportunity. At one point, this thing was even able to build hounds, which is quite hilarious. The Hound is a very powerful tool on the front line. I believe it could build recluses too. Yeah, I think it could build recluses and hounds in place of the Hound replaced the Sprinter replaced the Hound, and the Weber big bombing run coming across. The Hound replaces the Sprinter, and the Weber replaced the Recluse, or vice versa. I think I tried to say that sentence 6 times and didn't get it right once. Anyways. Nice bombing run right here. This is a whopping 7 Stormbringer bombers. Whirlwind bombers, I mean. And they're doing some good work. I'd love to see these targeting down the middle extractors, actually. There's no reason these shouldn't be bombing these little mech spots. Easy to get kind of blindsided by focusing on the things like the actual, the main laboratory, right? Focusing on this production. But if you take out all those metal extractors first and then route towards the production, you're not really losing all too much, because the anti-air has already come up. There's already enough reaction here for the Red Commander. These bombers are going to get shot down to the main base. If they had shut down these mexes here as well, they could have done quite a bit more damage, I think. Either way, though, they will take out a whole bunch of these wind turbines, and that's phenomenal. As long as that geothermal is down, that actually is a huge hit to the economy. You can see the red eco now plummeted from about 1,500 energy production down to just 600. Means that the, for instance, landmines are going to have a rough time staying cloaked. It means that the production of these T2 units is going to be very, very difficult. Everything here requires a lot of energy, and not having any of it, well, it slows things down quite tremendously. T2 mexes are up, though, and that's 8 metal per second per mex. And we've already got 2 of them up and running now, so the eco difference does begin to scale. We've also got, looks like a Juno coming up and running here for the Blue Commander. So, a little bit of an interesting diversity of strategies here, right? We've gone for wide expansion, expanding into multiple different tech paths, as opposed to vertical expansion, where we go up the tech path. We've got T2 tanks now out on the field, and these lightning tanks are really, really good against the incisor, especially that chain attack. It does enough damage that it can strip down incisors very quickly. Against medium tanks, they can still struggle a little bit. They're by far the best tool in the arsenal right now for the Red Commander, but once you get into those Starlights, once you get into Bulls, once you get into any of those much more expensive, much more precision tools, the Jaguars start to fall off as far as their relative efficiency. But there you go. I mean, you can see just how nicely they clean up those incisors. They have about the same speed as an incisor, so they can also outpace them and continue firing backwards. That kiting potential is a huge benefit to the Armada Commander here. And there we go. Geothermal rebuilt, by the way. Reinitializing the energy production here for the Red Commander. We have a whole bunch of build power dedicated to building these wind turbines, and that energy lead is really what the Red Commander is hoping to scale off of here. Now we've got a air lab coming up and running. I wonder if we're going to be going into a little bit of bombing here, or if we're going to be using some gunships. Cheeky T1 gunships have been known to find value where I declare there shall be none. Oftentimes commanders just to spite me, I feel, oftentimes they'll build a couple of those T1 Banshee and go kill half the map with them. Never should happen. T1 fighter is more than sufficient to shut down Banshees. I think it's like 2 or 3 shots for a T1 fighter to kill a Banshee. But sometimes they can really catch enemies by surprise, and that's an important part of an RTS game. The human factor. Janus tank getting some value here, firing away at those medium tanks. They will eventually kill it here as they get the jump on it. Lightning tanks here pushing into the backline, though. And this is fabulous. Tearing down these metal extractors, trading out efficiently for a whole bunch of this static defense and any of these static structures here. T2 heavy tanks rolling out of the production lab right now, so that will eventually be scouted. But for the time being, these Jaguars still have a huge opportunity. Yeah, sure can coming out, but those Jaguars have anti-air. There's enough, though. They will be paralyzed, and it looks like the Tiger tank will clean all the rest of those up. Very, very nice defense right there from our Blue Commander. Minimizing that damage, at least on that side, but now we'll take a whole bunch on the northern face. As more and more of these Jaguar tanks, these light lightning tanks, the 330 metal, 6,400 energy tanks, roll across the battlefield, blasting apart whatever they can. They're a very... how to put this? They're a very snowball-y unit, like many of the units in Bar. They're a very snowball-y unit, because that chain lightning obviously bounces between different targets, but that's also multiplied by the amount of them that there are, right? So if there's tons and tons of them, then it's very, very easy for that chain lightning effect to build up to devastating consequence. Not only that, but also that chain lightning effect can proc the, or trigger rather, the flanking bonus, which is another mechanic in Beyond Arisen. If you fire at an enemy from directly 180 degrees behind him, you get the maximum bonus, and then that sheds off as you approach the same angle. All that is to say that the chain lightning can activate that really, really easily, and it means that oftentimes it can be one of the easiest ways to actually go ahead and go for a to maximize damage from other units like Starlights or Bulls or anything like that. I'm liking the production bonus here for the Red Commander, though. Yeah, these lightning tanks have carved up a path right here and have done tons and tons of work. Juno missile being used, by the way, to clear out the landmines. Love that. Yeah, it's the right tool for the job, but it is a very expensive tool. We do also have some landmines over here, just some medium mines. They were in position in case there was any sort of a run-by from this northern side that trickled down. These medium mines have been cleaned up, though, and it means the medium tanks can now roll forward basically without fear. Anywhere those Janices do go down, those tanks are going to be able to move forward without really having to worry about any sort of mine layer shenanigans. And you do have to worry about it. Those mines are like 60 metal apiece versus the 200 or so per medium tank, and I think it takes two medium mines to kill a medium tank, might be 3. It's a very, very ridiculously efficient way of killing medium tanks. Obviously, though, the most static of static defenses as well, so there are effective trade-offs all across the board here. I love the eco expansion, though. We're going for that fusion reactor scaling. So this has been a point of question for a long time, and it's definitely something that we've seen expanded upon in the last, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months, is kind of the difference between eco expanding based on advanced fusion reactors versus fusion reactor scaling. And it seems like fusion reactors have actually fallen into favor right here, and largely that benefit comes from the fact that it doesn't take very much build power to actually build these. You can throw together a fusion reactor on just about 6 or so construction turrets, and it's usually more than enough to build it in a sufficient amount of time, typically about a minute or so. It's a really, really effective way of scaling that eco upwards before you're ready to go into that epic late game eco, right? The multiple aphises and e-converter stacks, all that sort of thing. It's very, very cheap to do so. You don't have to expend all too much on build power, and it's very, very modular in that sense. This AGO is what saves the red economy right here, and so it's important that Indie Club defends it with the commander, as you can see, trying desperately to hold this down as long as possible. The D-gun, nice D-gun right there. Carves up those medium tanks, those heavy tanks, pardon me. Very nicely done. Saves the Geo from complete obliteration, and that's exactly what Indie Club needed. Now the Geo comes online, and that basically doubles the energy production right now for the Red Commander, and it means that it's going to be a lot easier to produce the fusion reactor, which is going to further enhance that energy production. At this point, we're more than comfortable enough to go ahead and start pumping out those bull tanks. 950 metal, 13,000 energy, and you get one of the most beefiest, heaviest hitting artillery, well, not artillery, I guess frontline skirmisher units in the entire game. The bull tank has a huge amount of AoE. It does tons of damage with that AoE, and it has plenty of health to sustain itself. It's a beast on the battlefield, and as soon as you start to see them, you have to start building really specific tools just to counter those. Obviously, they're a tremendous expense, so there's sort of a implicit cost associated with that, but you have to be mindful of that, otherwise you can fall into a really dangerous situation. A couple of Jaguar tanks rolling over the medium mines. Uh-oh. Or those Juno missiles, Janus missiles fire away. Whoa! Whoa, whoa, whoa. Early T3 from the Red Commander. My goodness, we're going into T3 quickly here. Okay. At 4,000 energy production, apparently feeling comfortable going into T3, and I guess that's worth it. Yeah, it looks like the eco is relatively well balanced. Alright. I don't mind it. The T3 lab is up and running, and what are we going to go for? Ah, the power of the Marauder. 970 metal, just 20 metal more expensive than the Bull, which is pretty hilarious. We're going to go for one of the most powerful units in the game. It's the Marauder. If you've played Supreme Isthmus, I'm sure you've seen this unit once or twice, or maybe every time. It's fast, it's lightweight, it's got a little anti-air gun, it does huge amounts of damage, and they're very, very easy to get out on the field. With a T3 economy, or a T2, basically a mid-game economy, you can pump these out at a decent rate. You can see the Red Commander not even really struggling here. Yeah, producing more resources than even his spending on these Marauder, and now they're headed out onto the field. This is a very early T3 transition, but I don't think Lord Vader expects it at all. What a macro game here. Beamer turrets trying their best to cut up these medium tanks, and I mean, for what it's worth, doing a great job. I've always been a fan of the Beamer turret. I feel like it's one of those most consistent static defenses in the game. A lot of overkill and beyond all reason, but not with the power of the Beamer turret. Medium tanks. We were thinking about self-destructing him there. I wonder if that might have been the right move, because now there's thousands of metal lying on the field right here. Will it really matter, though, in the face of all these Marauder that are coming out? I wonder if going for a Razorback or two wouldn't be the worst idea. The Marauder are so powerful and so maneuverable, and especially in a map like this that features water, where the Marauder can shine and other units can't, they make a lot of sense to go for here. I love the pressure on the northern side. I'd love to see a little multi-prong attack here. I think that's what the Red Commander's gearing up for. A little bit of a flanking maneuver to send the Marauder down through the southern side while all of the units are pulled up north right now. Obviously, the Blue Commander does not have any scouting information about this T3 laboratory. Yeah. The last scouting information from the bombers was of the T2 laboratory, doesn't know about the T3's transition, so sees these units on the field, but thinks maybe that there must be something lighter. Because there's so many of them, obviously it's got to be a lighter unit, not expecting it to be full-blown T3. Now, surely this looks like a bad trade right here for the Red Commander, but you got to remember this is actually essentially just a distraction force, meant to pull the units out of position for the Marauder attack. Marauder rushing up onto shoreline and now blasting apart all of the eco that they can, finding a bunch of those T2 metal extractors and immediately getting to work disassembling them. Their multi-launch twin condensed matter Gauss cannons firing away a barrage of projectiles, doing a huge sum of damage, and very, very effective at dealing with anything. I don't think we want to fight these heavy tanks head-on, though. Ugh, well, okay. Against the heavy tanks, I mean, they're going to do fine. They're going to do all right. It's just not a super efficient battle. The power of the Marauder is that you never have to take a head-on fight. You can always dip into the water, relocate, move around to a different angle. You can outpace your enemy. You can move all around the sides of the map. There's no real reason why this should be held anymore. The Redcom has more than far and away had enough firepower to blast down these static defenses for a good long while here. Same on this southern side, and it does look like eventually we are going to move the Marauder in that direction. Yeah, this is nothing more than a distraction on this northern side. I mean, applying pressure is great, and these constructors going down does help a lot, but these bulls are effectively just meant to try and force the Blue Commander into a situation that they don't want to be in. Another fusion reactor coming up. I don't want to be the bearer of I told you so's, but had that geothermal been an advanced geothermal like we've seen for the Red Commander on the southern side, I think the energy situation might be a little stabler, might not have costed so much metal to get up and running here, and it might have been the difference that the Blue Commander needed to be into T3 already. Bull tanks just focusing down the AMXs here. Not so worried about killing anything else. Obviously, dealing with all these heavy tanks is never going to be feasible. 1 against 7. Yeah, 1 against 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15. It's just not important. The important thing is that all those units are on the northern side. All the actual units are on the southern side. The Marauders now making their way across, and there just isn't a tool for this. The Red Commander is taking advantage of one of Cortex's biggest weakness, and its speed. There's not really any unit on the field right here that's fast enough to contend with the speed of the Marauder, even though we might be able to kill 1 or 2 of them with these Banishers right here. Well, maybe none of them. None of the Marauders going down to the Banishers. There we go. Finally, one of them goes down. I was going to say, that would be tragic. Lord Vader in position for the D-gun, but frankly, this is a gigantic sum of Marauders. 11,640 metal worth of Marauders. We've gone full-blown into just pure energy production. We've already got the T2 mexes up and running on the map already. This is a beautiful play here for the Red Commander. At this point, these Marauder don't even need to trade super efficiently. Just their sheer numbers alone will be enough to trade them relatively efficiently for these T2 heavy tanks. And yeah, I mean, just like that, sweeping away tons and tons of those Tigers. Granted, all this reclaim is on the side of the Blue Commander, so if anybody's going to have an advantage from the reclaim field here, it'll be the Blue Commander. And we do have Resbots out to try and pick up as much of this as possible. But the Marauder have basically unlimited potential here. T2 cons go down. Metal extractors in trouble. I wonder why we're not going for the kill in the base here. I'm also curious why we haven't gone ahead and gone for a little bit of a higher tier unit. Another fusion reactor, another E-converter, or maybe just going into a good old-fashioned Razorback or 2. 1 Razorback assisted by Marauder can be more than sufficient to deal with gigantic hordes of armies. Pitbulls coming up all over the place as well. Just anti-run by protection here, making sure no incisors or anything goofy like that comes across. And now the fighter wave swarms forward. The blue commander with that air lab up and running, but doesn't necessarily have any units coming out. And now the fighters are creeping forward, trying to find an opening here. And they're going to discover there's actually not much anti-air defense here at all for the blue commander. Fusion reactors are scouted, wind turbines are discovered, and everything is revealed right here for the red commander. Do we have a nuclear missile charge? It almost looks like we're scouting for a nuke here. At the very least, the base is discovered, and it does mean that, yeah, these Marauder are looking for their angle. I love the res bots here, though. You know what? The res bots are so powerful. Yeah, 11,000 metal right here on the field for the blue commander, and he's going to get it all. That T3 lab is coming up. An important hold right now for the blue commander, for sure. These Marauder, they just have enough HP. They're just going to be able to push through. There's nothing to stop the Marauder, and I think that's game. Marauder, get up onto the high ground. Finally found the angle that they were looking for here. A mine layer might have been the right strategic decision here. Now the wind turbines are beginning to pop. Fusion reactor is going to sustain the large portion of this energy economy, but it sucks to lose the wind turbines. They do contribute a significant amount. It's not insignificant what the wind turbines do for the energy economy here for the blue commander. The Marauder with a basically perfect surround at this point, though. Persecutor pop-up turret, no, pardon me, Scorpion pop-up turret firing away at this point. Shiva also firing away. This is before their neat little graphic update, by the way. We'll be showcasing that more on this Saturday during the live stream. Feel free to tune in. It'll be a little bit of a longer one. Lord Vader firing away with some of those D-guns, though. And in a whole bunch of trouble. Yeah, Marauder staying nicely out of range here of that commander's D-gun. Tick's running in to reveal the commander. Uh-oh. It should be anyways. Not that it's really going to matter. The entire base now ravaged right here by these good old-fashioned Marauders. Showcasing the power of speed and agility over brute strength. Oh, the friendly fire from the Shiva. What a way to go out. GG is called right there as the Marauder managed to win the game right here for Inda Club. A T3 late game 1v1 deathmatch. What a brawl. And definitely a match to enjoy. I sure hope you did, and I will see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. Not sure what's going on with the award screen right there. I'll kind of move this around so you can see some of the aspects of it. But anyways, hope you have a fabulous rest of your day, and I will see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.